Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Family Partnership Council meeting, and today is March 19th, 2025. It seems like a long time since we've met, but it wasn't that long ago. It was actually November 6th, 2024. But I'm so glad to have all of you with us today, and we have a packed agenda with some very interesting topics. So I'm just very grateful to the presenters that have taken time out to join us today, and I hope that you enjoy our presentations as we go through the day. I do want to just review the purpose of this partnership council, the Family Partnership Council. The council serves in an advisory role to the Kentucky Department of Education and provides input regarding topics of interest to families, such as ways that families and communities can assist schools in ensuring that the achievement level of all students is increased. And so that is our purpose. And I do proudly serve as your chair, and my name was on the slide, but just in case, I am Marcia Van Hook. I am the full service community schools manager at KDE, and I serve in the capacity as the chair for this council. So with that, I just want to remind everyone, advisory council members, please ensure that your video is streaming and that you are visible during the duration of the meeting. Your microphone should be muted when you are not speaking. However, all discussions must be available to the public, so make certain that your mic is unmuted when speaking. And I know we're all guilty sometimes of forgetting that, so we'll remind you if we can't hear you. So hopefully we'll have no tech issues today. We can roll on. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Leslie Spears for the roll call. Leslie? Can't hear you, Leslie.
Sorry.
That's okay. We just talked about that. That's funny.
Thank you, Marcia. Marcia Van Hook.
Here.
Laura Beard.
Here.
Brittany Faulkner. Elizabeth Ashley Bruce.
Here.
Kara Trucker. Leah Markham.
Leslie, I think you're on mute again.
Oh, I don't know how that happened. Sorry. Amy Nickerson.
Here.
Alicia Miller. Elizabeth Delaney. Melissa Goins. Stephanie Barker. Rhonda Logston. Erin Weaver. Chris Medley. That's all. Marcia, I'm handing it back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. It is now time for us to have a review and approval for the November 6 minutes. Just a reminder, they were attached to the calendar invite for this meeting, and they're also in the chat box. And thank you, Leslie, for placing them there for everyone. I'm going to give you just a couple minutes to review those. Hopefully you had an opportunity to already look at them, and then I will call for an approval. So I'm just going to give you a chance to review them. So hopefully I'm not rushing you too much. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved. This is Ashley Bruce.
Thank you, Ashley. May I have a second?
A second. This is Laura Beard.
Thanks, Laura. And then all in favor? Just come off mute.
Aye.
Aye.
And lastly, any opposed? Thank you. So the November 6th meeting minutes are approved. I just wanted to remind everyone, Commissioner Fletcher was unavailable to join us this afternoon due to a scheduling conflict, but several members of KDE staff and the leadership are on this call with us today. And so they do, and we do, value your input and your ideas. And later in this presentation, I'm going to ask you if you would just please let us know for future meetings if there's anything you want to hear about or learn about. So I'll remind you at the end of the meeting as well. But we love your input. The commissioner loves your input, and hopefully he'll be able to join us in May. And I see Leah coming in. Our first topic on the agenda for today will be the current state or the local policies regarding the use of artificial intelligence or machine learning in schools. And so we have David Couch, the Associate Commissioner in the Office of Education Technology, with us today. And he will be presenting. So we're going to do something we haven't done before. So just bear with us. So David, I'm going to stop sharing and turn this over to you.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate joining today. You know, it's interesting. I'm here in Eastern Kentucky. I grew up in Johnson County, and I'm mainly known as Mrs. Couch's son versus David, which I'm very proud of because my mom's a beloved teacher here, and it's really fun to kind of be around her in town and just see kids come up to her and just so grateful to have had her as a teacher, and it's wonderful as a son to watch that. I'm a father of 4, and it's interesting. 3 of my children went into supporting K-12, including teacher level and a variety of different levels, and they married teachers. So I get a lot of feedback from my mom and from my kids, and now I have 3 grandkids and getting ready to have a 4th one anytime now. So I'm kind of watching for the calls coming in to see when I need to rush off and be part of that. So I've tried to remain in tune with K-12 throughout my time here at KD. This will be my 33rd year. Before that, I was a U.S. Army officer. I went to the United States Military Academy at West Point. And one of the cool things I got to be part of is it was the very first class that required computer science of every cadet. Part of that was just logical thinking there at West Point. Actually, I took the very first computer science course here in Kentucky, had a pretty visionary math teacher who had to call it computer math versus just math, which well prepared me to be a part of the first class to take computer science, and was always interested in it, and was fortunate enough to be placed in positions that took advantage of that. In fact, one of the earliest things I was responsible for is something called unmanned aerial vehicles, now called drones, and something called artificial intelligence. And so artificial intelligence has been around for quite some time. Obviously, the big thing that's changed is it burst onto the scene just over 2 years ago as far as being available to a wide population. And that's probably one of the bigger differences. But taking you back, and I suspect I'm older than most of the folks joining here, is when I was growing up, there was something called the Jetsons and something called Johnny Quest, which I think is the best cartoon ever. If you take a look at it, it's still pretty valid today. And if you take a look at the technologies, a lot of those have actually happened, but I always will hear, well, there's not flying cars. I always want to remind folks that George Jetson was not born until 2022. And so the Jetsons he's about in his 40s. And so we still got 40 years for the flying car to hang around. So we may see it yet, but I know it's not there today. Well, probably one of the best things I can share with you all is the resources that are available to everyone on these topics and the topic. And this is probably my best kind of thing I can take you through. And I definitely want to leave some time for questions there. And so just tell me when you can see my screen.
We can see it. Go ahead.
Okay. So if you're using a smartphone, just so you know, on the top right-hand side, you will see menu. So there'll be a different view, kind of experience when you're actually on a computer. And just click on when you see the Office of Education Technology. And when you go to the right-hand side or even here. And I'm assuming you can see the education technology. Is that correct? Can you all see that?
Yes, we can see.
Okay, just want to make sure, because that's an important part here. So if you come to our link, we've divided it in a couple of different areas. What we want you to know the most, what we find that people go to the most, and what we point people to the most. And we also have in here, we call hot topics and trending. You see AI guidance that we have put out. But probably one of the most important things and references that I can point you all to is this one right here. And this is kind of a area to where it includes a lot of different guidance and policies and recommendations and words of wisdom. So in this link, you see the AI guidance that we put out, and this is an evolving type of thing as AI is evolving. We also have a really good piece of information. If you go to this link, it's every month I have a webcast, a meeting with all the ed tech leaders in every district in Kentucky. And we're the only state that does that and been the first state to really do that. We've been doing that for about 20 years. I don't understand why the other states don't do it, but it's a great way for us to get input. On this particular month in June of 2024, if you were to click on that link, is you would see we have a CIO Summit, a Kentucky K-12 EdTech Leader CIO Summit every March, and we just had one last week. This one focused in on the feedback that we got at that summit in 2023 and 24. So if you click on that link, you'll see, if you go down to it, you click on, you see an area to where it actually has a Word document. So you'll see the video of it, you can watch it, but there's a Word document and it has the feedback. We have about 23, 24 tables of Kentucky K-12 CIOs, and we have 171 of those. We typically have between 80 to 85% that actually show up at that event. I think for any parent or school leader or community member, you'd be interested in that feedback. And just last week, we also had the CEO Summit, and we have typically 4 or 5 questions we ask them. And we once again asked about AI. And yesterday, we had an 1.5-hour webcast I did with all the districts, and I spent quite a bit of time on that feedback. And the questions were around, and you'll see it in here a little bit when you're clicking on it, is, what is there been a significant difference, noticeable difference that you've seen in AI over the past 2 years? And it was a similar question than previous years. Do you think AI is going to make a big impact in Kentucky K-12 schools going forward? And what are your worries or concerns about it, about AI? And I shared even mine concerns about it, particularly the concerns around boundaries. Make sure there's proper boundaries around it. And what else information does our Office of Education Technology at KD really need to be providing districts in the area of artificial intelligence? And I'll share some of those results with you here in a little bit, or questions that you may have on it. Also, by law, we have to have a master plan for education technology. We recognized artificial intelligence there is something that we need to stay in tune with and up to date on. One of the best books that I have seen on it, and it's just like right here, I'm not his publicist, Donnie Piercy, but he is our former 2021 Teacher of the Year. He's pretty savvy about technology. He's a father as well, great leader, obviously, being the Teacher of the Year. But he also wrote a book of 50 strategies of how you integrate AI effectively into the classroom. And it went to the very top of the bookseller list. I mean, he was the best-selling, I think, book in education for a period of time. I'm not sure if he is, but I always kind of point people to that. When I've got the book, I bought it. Well done. But give some folks ideas. And we find the kind of things he's pointing out, the questions I asked last Wednesday of all the ed tech leaders, I find it pretty consistent with what he found in this book of how they're integrating technology into the classroom, particularly as they're coming up with lesson plans. Is probably one of the biggest benefits that they're using. We also see AI, and when I asked the question last week, is is there a noticeable difference of AI that you know so far in your schools over the past 2 years? And I put it with this context: AI is being built into most software programs as a way to make them more effective and efficient. So even Microsoft Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, the programmers are making sure that the AI technology is built into that to improve the performance of it. So a good number of folks are using AI, they just don't realize it, to increase the performance and effectiveness of their tool. This is one outwardly. We have an early warning system. We built it many years ago with Infinite Campus, which is the school information system that all districts use, and have used it since 2006. And this is an early warning tool for students that may be in danger of dropping out. And we call it a persistence to graduation, but there's certain things Infinite Campus of this plus this minus this need to get on the radar screen of district leaders to make sure there's additional supports for that student that may be in the danger of dropping out. AI was behind the scenes of helping make that a more efficient tool, going behind the scenes in a very safe and secure environment what I would say not an open environment, which I'd be much more concerned with, but a more closed and secure environment. There's also been quite a bunch of interest by the legislature, just not in Kentucky, but across the nation. And so I've also included on here presentations to our Kentucky legislature over the past 12 months. Good stuff in here. Doug Robinson that you see here actually used to be in the Commonwealth Office of Technology, and he's actually the leader of all the CIO stands for Chief Information Officers, and the main person that leads technology for state governments. I'm not in that role. I lead that for all K-12, but not for all of state governments. And I thought his presentation was excellent. I encourage you to take a look at it. Also had Microsoft and Google came in and presented to that from their perspectives. Our Office of Education Technology has also presented a couple of times to all Kentucky state government on the topic of AI. We did that in 2023 and 2024. There's other things related to technology and having focused in on computer science for quite a bit in my lifetime. When you understand the basics of computer science, you can do artificial intelligence. It's not like a special thing that you go into that you have to study just to go in artificial intelligence. A lot of things that students and adults already do in the area of technology, they can go into the field of artificial intelligence. So we have our Student Technology Leadership Program. We have 60,000 of our students that are part of that. And we have our state championship on April 23rd. If you've ever seen one of those at Rupp Arena, I encourage you to see that. That's project-based learning in action. And these are students, and it's just not AI related. In fact, there'll be very little AI, but it'll be interesting in this one if there's some AI projects that are included, but just how they use technology to better understand academic topics. We also have a Computer Science Academy. We've had that for about 10 or 15 years, and these give out certifications that are very marketable in the workforce. Extremely marketable, even with a high school education coming out with this, make them very marketable. We have a computer science plan that's part of this. We have academic standards, and we may probably have to tweak these a little bit. We just came out with those, but as AI evolves, we'll have to probably fine tune those a bit. Here's what I find in conclusion with it, and I try to look at this from a parent perspective and education leadership perspective. And really, it's really a district choice right now how much they, use the tools and or not use the tools. And I think it's really their comfort zone, and it relates to their educational goals of their school or the district and the values of the district. And that changes in all 171 districts. We do recommend, and I recommend for anyone, even parents and community members, try it out. Get on these tools and actually try them out and get familiar with them, the plus and minuses of them, so you can properly weigh that. I do think in the area of education, the medical field, the area of AI, really the pluses outweigh the minuses of it. Obviously, I have some apprehensions beyond that. I would just tell you, I grew up in an area to where there was a movie that came out in 1973 called Westworld. And you had robots, and they were combined with AI, and they could independently walk around and take action, and they didn't have the ability to unplug those things. So anytime I see AI combined with robots, I get a little bit nervous about that. I've also seen, and I would also put it, once again, I think the pluses outweigh the minuses of it. But anytime AI is used as I call a companion, where someone develops an emotional attachment to an AI companion, I think there's a concern with that. There's products out there and services out there to where people, real people, can develop a relationship, almost a romantic relationship with a AI system. Soulmate was shut down a while back, and then there was great pushback when the folks that were involved with that about why it was shut down. But that's one of probably the apprehensions that we have of that kind of tool. But once again, I think the pluses much outweigh the minuses of it. And then this is really true, as this one right here. AI will with certainty be part of students' future and adults' future, and so they need to be aware of it. Even with my 4 children, is when this came out 2 years ago, I called all of them. I said, it's really important that you stay on top of this for your skill sets. And it's not necessarily going to replace you, but people that don't stay on top of it and adapt it as part of their workforce could be replaced. And we've seen that over the course of many years, of hundreds of years of folks of a new thing coming out, and folks not adapting that new thing and in the way they work versus the folks that did. And so it's going to be an important skill set. And I always try to have folks say, what do we need to do to make sure that we properly prepare students for the future with this? Now, districts can choose right now to block or not block some of these tools I call chat GPT like tools. But, you know, a very high percentage of students, regardless of their socioeconomic level, are carrying around smartphones with internet access. And it's just not high schoolers. These are middle schoolers. And we have a very high percentage of students in Kentucky that down to the 3rd grade level. And I can remember having the battles with my children when they were younger, especially my youngest ones, about the appropriate time for them to get a smartphone. My oldest son, it wasn't until he was in high school, his sophomore year. And even my middle school son was saying everybody has one except me. And he started using my own data against me of showing what percentage of Kentucky students had it, but I still kind of held off on that. There's I think appropriate, this is as a parent for me, an appropriate age that they can handle this stuff, just not the tool, but everything else that's out there. But school districts can block or not block it with the school issued devices and using the school and networks. And we're seeing from the feedback of this past conference that there's more, that the adults are using it much more than students. But there is now more opening up of when's it appropriate time for students to use this and the subject areas they're appropriate to use it in. There are some products that adults will use daily, as we said here, and summary of minutes. We now use it for I told you we have a monthly meeting with all districts. We now use artificial intelligence in a very close setting. It takes the meeting transcript, and just like Teams does a transcript, it'll take that, it'll do a summary of that meeting. And we used to have someone that was dedicated to do the summaries of it. And that's what I was pointing to before, of going and checking out the summaries. For the past 3 or 4, we've actually had AI do the summary. Now I go through and actually look at that summary, because the issue with AI still, and it'll probably be around a while, it hallucinates, which means it'll put some stuff in there that it's not really accurate. And that's a problem that we have to have with all this, a human involvement with it. And even if you ask it to write something for you, is typically for me, I tell folks is, you know, I'll just like this or any presentation, I'll go, what kind of things would these folks be most interested in? I've already got some thoughts about what I'm going to present, and I'll ask, you know, Chat GPT to see if there's anything I'm missing. And I found a couple of things. Oh, that's a good idea. I'll incorporate that in, versus counting on it for 100%. And you're seeing people start using it for writing letters back and emails of, especially like if someone passed away and you're wanting to write a note of sympathy and may have trouble doing that. It can get you off to a good start. I call it a draft version, but you obviously have to fine tune that. I've talked about before this. I think there'll be a positive impact to the educational field, but there needs to be boundaries there. And I've talked about these the robots that move around independently, and there's some other boundaries that we got to make sure that we put on there. I'd also say to you, I point people to the Southern Region Education Board. That's 16 states. Kentucky is a member of that, and I am Kentucky's primary member of that I go to their meetings. And our former Commissioner of Education, Stephen Pruitt, actually leads that organization, and he's leading the AI effort. So it's kind of fun to catch up with him in that role. But these folks are putting out good stuff as far as their recommendations. This is one thing I noticed when I was preparing for this, is I need to update this one, the use in the classroom and the workforce. When I was there last month, I thought they had finalized it, but I went to their site and I still don't see it finalized. So if you click on these, you don't see it yet, but I'm going to go, you know, when I get done with this today, I'm going to go and ask, has that been finalized, so I can point folks to the right information. And this is the NASCIO presentation. So I'll stop there, and I'll open it up for any kind of questions that you may have, but I want you to be aware of the great resources there, because we get asked that all the time. That's mainly the reason I put that thing together in one spot. I get asked so much, but I want folks to understand all the work that's been done. But obviously this is a good setting for me to get some feedback of some things that we may have not considered. So I'll just wait for some feedback and questions or comments that you may have.
Thank you, David. Do you have any questions for David?
Any recommendations? Do I get a standing ovation? I mean, I'm a little bit worried about the quiet of this. I'll tell you one thing, and just keep this in mind, is typically in the world of technology, folks underestimate or overestimate, I should say, overestimate the immediate impact of technology. I do think with AI, folks were just thought there's going to be this avalanche, and there was such hype to it. But at the same time, I think we underestimate the long-term impact of certain technology. So what I found in the feedback the last week is it really confirmed that. There was about 60% of the districts, it wasn't about, it was right at 60%, that said they noticed a difference that AI was making in their district, but it wasn't like this overwhelming difference. And I really liked their feedback. They said it wasn't like what I thought. I thought there was just going to be this avalanche. But what I could see in there, they are really starting to think about it is they're buying things. Now, I'll tell you some areas of concern that we're seeing, and the SRB is working on this, is data, then data privacy and data security. Is a lot of researchers want to use the data, and it really is great for analysis. But you got to make sure you have a closed system, and you're just not buying any system or using any system to analyze that data, because once you put it all in there, it's there. And if you've not put it in the right type of system, it's open to the public. And there's certain types of that information, I'll go back to my military time, is top secret. So it's called the data sharing. I think that's going to be an important part. The other part that was really showed up a lot last week is we already have acceptable use or responsible use of technology policies. So when I started back in 1992, and by the way, we were the very first state, and Kentucky was the very first state to have internet access to every school district in every classroom. And we did that in the mid-90s. So after we did that, legislators were very interested in internet safety, and there's technology things that we put in place. So we have internet content management systems and had them in the 90s of what districts want to allow and not to allow to be used digitally. But the key part of that is acceptable use and responsible use policies. That's really code of conducts for adults and students. So a big part of this, the feedback we saw, is in the area of artificial intelligence, what needs to be added to a student's and an adult's responsible use and acceptable use policies to make sure they're using these technologies appropriately within a K-12 setting. We also have something called the 9 elements of being a good digital citizen. There's something called the International Society for Technology and Education. And really it said, what are the great skills, what are the people skills that you got to maintain while being immersed in a technology society? And that's a really important thing that we've always circled back to, of being a good digital citizen. In fact, we have something called a digital driver's license that we make available to all school districts, and have a very high percentage of them that use that. But once again, what's the responsible use of these technologies, which is, I think, circling back, legislators and everyone else, is what are the right boundaries we need to have around these things, while not scaring everybody to death about them, because it's definitely going to be part of the future. So that's the part that's being worked on: responsible use. What are the boundaries? What's the data sharing parts of it? That's really the next steps when you're buying stuff, or when you're just getting stuff free. What things do you need to consider? One of the things we're concerned about is for being from a family of teachers, sometimes you'll see something that's free. Well, there's a problem sometimes with free. There's a reason it's free, and for some things, districts should really buy. I'll give you an example. There are certain bots, AI bots, that can attach themselves to any meeting, and it may need to be a closed meeting. And what that bot is doing is taking down everything people are saying and doing summaries. In fact, yesterday with my meeting, I noticed there was an AI bot that had attached itself to our meeting, and we immediately removed those AI bots. But you may not realize one has attached itself to you, and it's going to every meeting, and it's like someone sitting silently in the corner taking notes and doing summaries and sending that out to the world. And there are some settings to where you really need it to be private. So Microsoft Teams is more of a closed setting. It's a product that we buy, and it really is, if you want to do summaries in a summary of a meeting, you need to use the tools that we buy with Microsoft Teams that doesn't go to the world. That's an example of just one example of the free tools that folks got to be aware of. AI can be really great, but you got to make sure you're remembering the boundaries of appropriate use. Any
David,
other?
No, I was just going to say, I love that you expanded some more upon it, but also just to encourage not only your children, but all of us to learn what we can about it because it is here. And as I noticed, and I'm seeing Leah shake her head, you're right there. You've noticed too, and Laura, because I've been in meetings, with Laura quite a bit here recently. You see that AI presence there taking notes, and Laura, you know what I'm talking about. It's like be somebody's name even. It says note taker, but it is an avalanche like you talked about. I think we all thought there was going to be this finite date and everything was going to happen, but I call it the creep effect. It's creeping in more and more every phone update. And so that's a great reminder to learn what is happening around us so that we are safe.
Yep.
Are there any questions for David? Go ahead, Leah.
Yeah, I just had one quick question. So in my role, I get to be parent, but also support some school districts here locally. And there we have some that are just wide open and they're AI, all the things for all the people. And then we have some others who are much more closed and they're just trying to figure out what they're going to allow. But is there a KDE recommendation for a policy that they could use to say, here's what KDE has put out as a template for a policy to get started with?
Well, we've done guidance. We try to stay away from policy because people start going, thou shalt. Katie is saying thou shalt.
Sure.
I got to tell you what, there's that pushback. And I even last week, I said, now you guys throw an absolute fit when we start doing policy. You're saying, Katie, thou shalt. You don't know what my individual district is like. And so you just get the beat down for it. So even the responsible use policy and that we have, we give recommendations. But it is a district flavor. They're in the big boy and big girl seats. They got to come up with what's the policy and not the policy. We can give great background. We can give plus and minuses of it, but you're not going to see us. I mean, at least with me sitting in this chair saying, Katie, this is the policy. Mm-hmm. But we give tons of guidelines. But the folks in the districts and the leaders in the districts, like I say, they're in the big girl and in the big boy seats. There's a reason. I mean, you need to take that and step up and actually come up with all the guidance that's out there, but no one's going to go, at least not with I'm here, is saying this is the policy. Because as soon as you do that and you name it policy versus guidance, you get the beat down. I'm just telling you. So we give a lot of it. We got a lot of guidance out there. It's up to districts to really, and a good number of them, by the way, is they have come up with their policies. Mm-hmm. That's rolling. And they're trying to think about it in a really thoughtful way. When we start using that in the classroom, now we all understand they have internet access on these phones. Mm-hmm. And I want to say like 95, 97% of students, despite their socioeconomic level, have a phone. And so you're not really stopping it, but you may be stopping it in their classroom. So I always say, let's educate them on the plus and minuses of these things. But I understand the slow and it kind of reminds me when the internet first came out. Mm-hmm. And even for me, I'm older than nearly everyone here. When we start using calculators, there's all this thing of, well, kids aren't learning anymore. They're going to calculators, or we are circling around and they're not learning the basics. And I've seen that in a variety of things in my lifetime. When Kentucky Educational Television came out, it was like, well, the televisions don't replace all the teachers. No, it didn't. So you got to ease people into it. It's not replacing everybody, in all this, but it is a tool. And they're still thinking that that's going to be involved with it. It's not going to go around but to act like it's not there and get students prepared, I think there's a balance of that too, because you don't want them to go out there and go, well, my school all locked it down and I really don't know how to use this when they go on to the next steps of their life.
David, thank you. That's a great reminder to close on. And are there any other questions for David while he's with us? Well, if not, I want to thank you. That was very informative. I took lots of notes and congratulations on your upcoming grandchild. And so we wish you the best of luck. And thank you so much for coming today. And there's a lot, and that resource is really rich. So I want to circle back and go through there as well. So thank you very much. Well, so at this point, we'll move on. David, you're welcome to stay with us if you'd like and hear the rest. We understand if you have something that you need to attend to in another meeting, but you're welcome to stay.
Thank you.
If you'll just stop sharing and I'll take back over. And hopefully this works.
I think I did stop sharing a while back, so it should be fine.
I think we're going to be okay. Yes. I believe that we are. Okay. get to mine. All right, so contact information. There is David's contact information. If you have any questions, you think of some as you process this or want to refer through those documents, this is how you reach him. Also, Marty Park was not with us today, but he is the Chief Digital Officer, also in the Office of Educational Technology, and you can refer questions to Mr. Marty Park as well. So thank you again so much. We're going to move on from AI, and we're going to go into our next presenter. And so she gave me a lesson earlier before we went live on how to say this, so I'm going to try. We have Jessica Fletcher from the Kentucky Center for Statistics, and we have I think we have Amanda with us, right? We have Amanda with us as well, I do believe. But Jessica is going to talk to us about a new career in education website. And I'm gonna try it, Jessica. Futurity. I said it wrong again. I'm gonna turn it over to you.
So I've been telling everybody futurity.
Okay. Thank you.
Rhymes with maturity. So, as an easy way to remember, as a student matures and comes into their maturity, they can use futurity.
Love that. Thank you so much. I can remember that.
So Futurity is a platform that has been in development in the state of Kentucky for about 4 years now. It was designed to help all people, whether they are a middle school student who's just starting to explore career pathways, all the way up through parents and adults who are already maybe in a career but want to upskill or just figure out what they might be better suited for. It's a website that uses data from the Kentucky Center for Statistics that is Kentucky specific. So you're not going to find anything in the website that is data that is outside of the state or college or career information that is from another state. It is all Kentucky specific, but it is, let's see, if you want to go onto that next slide, and just a backstory, if you all want to take your phones and scan that QR code, you're welcome to kind of browse around the website while we are talking through it. But on the next slide, you'll see that it is really designed to sort of connect the dots to existing resources that are already out there in Kentucky. So, you know, there are lots of ways that people can kind of find out about different careers, whether that's using the KY Stats Career Explorer or using Student Right to Know. These things kind of already existed, but some of them either weren't super accessible for students of all ages, or they weren't easy to find. So we tried to make a platform that is suited for everybody, no matter what education level they're at. And it connects them to things like filling out their FAFSA so they can find out how much financial aid they might be eligible for. It will tell them what scholarships are out there. And then ultimately, once you have kind of worked your way through the education system, it even links to the Kentucky Career Center's jobs portal. So it's a very holistic approach to imagining what you want to do, finding out how much it will pay, planning where you can live in the state, and then kind of figuring out, okay, I want to start applying for jobs now that I have a degree in XYZ. There are tutorials on creating a resume, preparing for job interviews, and then ultimately you can start actually applying for jobs through that Career Center portal that is linked in Futurity. So on the next slide, you can see that we have the website kind of sectioned off into 3 buckets. So, you know, you start your Futurity journey by choosing your career path. So that means taking career quizzes and aptitude tests, searching through our Future Finder database, which has all of that Kentucky specific data in it. And then learning about our high demand career sectors. So for example, you know, telling students what jobs are out there that are going to be in demand for a long time, why those are important, and why those can kind of help you in terms of job security and not having to worry about what happens if you lose a job and then can't find something else later on. So after you kind of figure out what career or careers you want to focus on, you go into the continue your education section of the website, where you can research about college going, so you can learn what schools offer what programs, how long those programs take. And when we're trying to use the word college very loosely and really trying to even use education instead, because the word college can be a turnoff for a lot of students and a lot of families who think they can't afford college. So we're trying to talk about education after high school in terms of apprenticeships, military experience, 6-month certificate programs, 2-year programs, 4-year programs, and just tell them all that's out there, and not just have people think that there's only one, quote, going to college pathway. And also educating them about why, well, going to college might be important. And I'll get into that in just a second. But then, of course, the third bucket of the website is the Start Your Career. And that's where all the job portal information is, as well as some information on your regional demand jobs and where those resume and interview tips are stored. On the next slide, we have the section that kind of shows you based on, I guess, your demographic. So if you are a middle and high school student, or you're a parent of a middle or high school student, this information is going to be most relevant. But if you were sort of on that landing page for continue your education, you'll choose between 2 different sections. One would be I'm a high school, middle school student, or I'm an adult. And so the links that you get on each of those pages are a little bit different, just based on kind of where that student is at in terms of their educational journey. On the next slide, we have some guidance about like how students can start preparing for that educational journey after high school, or even during high school. So for example, the prepare section leads you to information about early post-secondary opportunities. So dual credit, CTE programs, anything that can kind of get your foot in the door as far as having some college experience before you graduate high school is available in that prepare section. There is information about how to apply for schools, how to apply for financial aid and scholarships. And then that attend section is really great because it shows you some of the resources that are available at schools that can kind of help students with various basic needs, everything from food and clothing insecurity to healthcare choices and so on. On this slide, I'm sorry, the next slide after this one. So this, I was mentioning a little bit before about how Yes. So this is the page that I really love that kind of shows that what education after high school means. So it gives you a little bit of information about Kentucky's 60 by 30 goal. Why a post-secondary credential, be it an apprenticeship or military experience or a college degree, is important to helping Kentuckians kind of make sustainable wages and be able to kind of support their families. So all of that I think is on this page and really helpful in terms of like both giving parents and students kind of access to that information. On the next slide, we have a place that talks about how students can get some work experience while they are still in high school. So there is links to the track program, to work-based learning. And then, of course, there are lots of opportunities for individuals with disabilities that we have linked there. So really just tried to, like I said earlier, connect the dots to some of these resources that were already existing. We didn't want to reinvent a bunch of stuff because Kentucky has so many great programs already. On the next slide, we have a section that really talks about those high demand careers, and we boil it down into 3 different ways. So you can look at high demand jobs by their sector, by the education level required to get them, or by the region in Kentucky you live in. And so all of this, again, is data driven. So if you were to click into one of those links, and if you'll go on to the next screen, I'll give you an example. So this is the sector page where you can see that these are the 5 high demand sectors right now. So healthcare, construction, education, manufacturing, logistics, and then professional, scientific, and technical services. So if you click on to the next, you'll see that. So this is an example of that manufacturing and logistics sector. So each of those green boxes have about 5 to 10 different careers in them, kind of scrolling. So if you were to click on the arrow button, you would see a different career. And then if you click on learn more, you're going to see even more details about the data related to that individual career. So you can see the median wage for it, the education required, and then even on, if you're in the learn more screen, you will see the listing of where in Kentucky you can major in a job that would lead you to an industrial production manager career. We also have a page that shows which careers are in demand by your education level. And this is probably my favorite page on the entire site because it truly speaks to the value of education. So if you start at your no high school diploma job and you look at that wage and you see that it's $23,000, and then you move all the way to the bottom left, or the bottom right, where it says doctoral and professional degree, and you look at that salary, there's a huge difference. And that is truly because the more education you have, the better your income is likely to be. And, you know, I think we've always said that to students, but we've never had a good way of actually putting it in their faces and showing them, you know, the actual salaries. And these are real salaries. These are, I think the most recently available was from 2023. Or even, let's see, this is 2025. So yes, we will update with 2024 data in the fall. And one thing people always ask about Futurity is how often will this be updated? And we will be doing annual updates of this data. So you know that it's not, you know, 5 years from now, you're not still going to be looking at the same numbers. So we will keep up with inflation and all of that. And I think really be able to tell this story directly to students of the value of staying in school, getting a certification or degree or what have you, so you can afford your life. So next slide. This is the Future Finder, and I know we're kind of probably running out of time a little bit, so I'm going to kind of speed through this, but this is that data section of Futurity where you can select individual careers, find out different the wages associated with them. You can compare side by side. So if you'll kind of click to the next slide, you'll see this is just an example of a career that requires no education credential, and it's high demand. But all of the there's about 700 plus careers in the full database, and they range from high demand jobs to jobs that there might only be a few openings per year, but you can see that projected employment. So if you look at the bottom in the middle of the screen, you can see that all of the jobs have a projected employment through the year 2032. And this is fast food counter workers, so always high demand, right? But if you want to go to the next slide, you'll see that it changes just based on what the career is. So this one doesn't have quite as many as fast food counter workers, but it's still a very high demand job. It has a very wide range of salaries, starting from an early career salary of $60,000 all the way to almost $200,000. So it's a lot of information, including that job description, that really helps students understand like what they would be doing if that was the job choice that they made. You can compare careers. So you can see that you can do, or on the next slide, you can see that side-by-side comparison. So you can take up to 4 different careers that are in that database and say, oh, this one makes a little bit less, but there are programs at the university right in my neighborhood. So lots of different ways to kind of plan what you want to do based on that real-time Kentucky data. And then on the next slide, you can also look at majors at the colleges and universities and see outcomes like your median income after completion, or the percentage of graduates employed who were in that major at that university. The next slide, I believe this one just shows a different major at a different university. You do see some data not available just because of redaction. For example, like if this is a pretty small major that might have fewer than 10 people, you're not always going to get the data like average time to completion or loan debt information. But we still think even if some of those metrics aren't available, it's still valuable to see. I went to Murray State and actually do have a master's degree in public administration. And so it's really cool to be able to see that median income and how your personal salary compares to what else might be out there. And then on the next slide, here's the view of the college level. So there are, I want to say, about 70 public colleges and universities in the database, and then all of this data related to them, as well as links to the school website and the application, and that listing of all of the degree levels that are offered at each of the schools. And then on this next slide, this is my favorite part from the high school perspective, is whatever high school in Kentucky you go to, you can type that in and see which career pathways are offered. And then you can also see if there's a associated technical school related to that high school, you can type that name in and see what career pathways are offered, and really give students who are just in middle school or high school an idea of what they can already be working on while they're still in high school. And then this slide, for those of you who are working with schools or in classrooms, we have lesson plans available. These do align to the ILP requirements, and also align very closely to the Kentucky Post-Secondary Advising Framework. So if you are getting students ready for that next educational experience after high school, there's lots of activities and ways to do that within Futurity. And then I think we're almost at the last slide. Yeah, this is just kind of some of our future plans for the website. We're hoping to build a scholarship database, because right now you can't really search scholarships in any way other than the printed book that KIA produces every year. So we're working on building that into a database. We really want to build a budget calculator so students can see how much it takes to live in different parts of the state and how the careers and wages that they're looking at kind of add up. And then of course, we're always kind of building, trying to spread the word about the website and hoping to reach people who aren't either in school or in some kind of state system where they might come across Futurity. So just really building out this digital marketing strategy. But you know, we're about a month and a half into this website launch, and we've had about 12,000 visitors just in probably 50 days. And so it's really been cool to see it grow and spread by word of mouth. But this is something that, you know, we want to be used by the community schools, by everybody in the state, to really help them understand the opportunities and possibilities that are out there as far as education goes. So if you have any questions, I am happy to stay on and answer any of those. Or if you would like me to do demonstrations at any of your schools or communities, also happy to do that. So any questions?
Jessica, I just want to say thank you all so much for putting this together, because at the cooperative level, we have been working with Pathway to Careers to try to come up with something that was going to offer students the opportunity to see, like, if you choose this pathway, here's what you're going to, opportunities you have available. And whenever I saw that this was coming out, I said, we're not going to do that, because we have this really comprehensive system for the state of Kentucky that's going to be way better than anything else that we could provide. So I'm so excited to be able to share it. But the next thing I want to ask is, are you available on June 5th and 6th? Because we would love to have you come and present.
Yes, absolutely. June 6th is my birthday, though.
Oh, well,
I will be happy to.
If you could come on either day, and we have a summer institute that we bring educators from across the region. And I think this is one of those things that has the potential to be amazing, but if it never gets into the hands of the right people and they get comfortable using it, then those lesson plans that could be amazing for students, they never actually get into the hands of the students. So I think, like, while it's still new and fresh and something that if you wanted to present, you know, we have an 1.5-hour session or a 3-hour session. I think we could really market this really well to middle school and high school teachers as, you know, a great opportunity for them.
Yes, absolutely. If you just want to send me an email, I'm going to put my email in the chat. I will say, and I didn't kind of get into this in the beginning, but I actually left KY Stats last week, and I'm now at the Council on Post-Secondary Education. So that first screen where you saw KY Stats, that has since changed, but so it's been a whirlwind week, but we're really trying to spread the word about this and make people aware that it is a free tool. We know it can be better. We know that there's things that we can do, like figure out how to integrate that ILP piece so students can actually be tracking their ILP, but in a futurity kind of way. So that's our next big project, and we will definitely keep you posted on how that's going.
Jessica, this is just such a great resource. And Leah used the word I kept thinking of. It's so comprehensive, and you can really do some exploration, especially that middle school student or even that high school student that just really doesn't know what they want to do. Like, to follow it all the way through, and then regionally what the demand is, but then where do I go? Because to pull, like you said, pulling all of those resources together, that is an invaluable tool for folks moving through. I do have one question. I think I might know the answer, but I wanted to clarify. When you show the salary data for each of those things, is that just Kentucky averages, or is that national averages?
Kentucky averages. And that's one of the things that I think is so powerful about this is your out of the box tools. I think UScience and Navigo and some of those other tools, those are all national because, you know, they're created for anybody across the country to use. This was built in Kentucky for Kentucky. And so we really wanted to tap into KY Stats's labor market information so that people aren't seeing a job that, you know, sounds like it might have a really great salary, but it doesn't because of where they live. So we want people to really understand the reality of the job market.
Thank you so much. Anyone else have questions? Leah, do you have another question for her while we're here? Okay. And I do love that you talked about the community school piece. I know Laura is coming up next, and I can totally see how this just fits in so many places. Is such a great resource. So Jessica, thank you so, so much. And it is, I'm not even going to try again. I've practiced, but I'm going to practice some more.
Futurity.
Futurity. If you say it, I can say it.
Good job.
Futurity. I'll learn it. I promise. It's a terrific resource. So again, you're welcome to stay with us for the rest of the meeting if you like. We don't have an awful lot left on the agenda. And then if not, we understand if you need to go, but we have thoroughly enjoyed this presentation and you're welcome to stay.
Thank you. And I'm glad to hear from Laura, who I also worked at Pritchard Committee, and Laura was a great coworker of mine. So glad to see that we're on the same agenda today.
Well, and I get to work with Laura now in my capacity, and she is a great coworker. So Laura, with that fabulous introduction, we're going to have Laura Beard from the Pritchard Committee. She is the director for the Commonwealth Institute for Parent Leadership. She's going to talk to us about strengthening family leadership in Kentucky. So Laura, take it away.
Thank you. I think you built me up, and I have one slide, so I feel like I need more, but no, I appreciate that, and love working with both of you and love being on this council. I just wanted to take some time to just update the Family Partnership Council on some of the initiatives we have at the Pritchard Committee to strengthen family leadership. So you hear a lot about family and community engagement in our schools and what we can do to deepen and provide more meaningful engagement. But we also recognize that we need families as decision makers and families who are also leaders and have the confidence to serve as leaders. So a couple of things I just want to highlight so you can share out with other families and let them know that these opportunities exist. We're really trying to build relationships with families, especially families who feel somewhat disconnected. And, social media is a place where families often turn to share comments and posts and things of their concerns. So we recognize that sometimes there's a need for families to just come together and converse. So we've started a monthly family forum. We offer a 10 a.m. or a 7 o'clock p.m. Zoom time on the last Monday of every month. The caveat to that is if a holiday happens to fall on that Monday, then we will not host it. But every Monday, or every last Monday of the month, we will hop on a Zoom. Parents from across Kentucky can hop on. The cool thing about it is there's not an agenda. There are some agreements, but there's no agenda. And for a lot of our families, they're asked to come to a council or committee, and there's a preset agenda, and they're often there to observe and listen, from time to time, provide some feedback. So we just wanted to offer something a little bit different for families to just come and bring some of the things that are working well, some of the concerns that they have, and really for us to staff that conversation and help them make the connections and get the information that they might need. So that's been really great. We'd like to increase the awareness around those. So in a follow-up email, I'll make sure that Marcia has everything that's needed for you guys to kind of push out those links and share that information. We also provide opportunities for our families to learn more about how they can be engaged with initiatives in the school. We mentioned the Community Schools Initiative. We believe that families need to be connected to what's happening in the school, and that the schools link families to learning at home. So we're providing consultation and training for our schools and districts as a part of the Community Schools Initiative. We have learning exchanges that we host with our district directors, that we host with families, and also with community members. So a lot going on in the space of learning together the beauty of that is when we have family schools and communities learning together, you can definitely feel the partnership that's created, and also understand how that trickles down to students being more supported for their success. And then we are in our second cohort for this school year of SIPL Fellows. So the Commonwealth Institute for Parent Leadership has been around for 30 years, almost 30 years. And over that course of time, there's been more than 3,000 graduates of the fellowship. Oftentimes, parents will come to the fellowship because they are seeking election on SBDM, or maybe they want to do a little bit more with Frisk Advisory Councils or other committees. Some families are interested in running for school board. So we try to provide that opportunity for them to learn. But we often have families who've never served in any leadership position who go through the fellowship and then are inspired to take on roles in their school. And so we support them in that fashion. The SIPL Fellows who have come through this spring will graduate along with the fall cohort that we had at the Groundswell Summit in June. And so that's also where they showcase the projects that they've done as part of their fellowship requirement. So projects can be something they've done in their school, in their community, that really benefits all students. And so many of our projects at the Groundswell Summit will focus on mental health. They'll focus on barriers to English language learners. We have some projects on how to increase family engagement in middle and high school, and the list kind of goes on and on. So we're just excited to showcase those parents and just remind this partnership group that we will start a new fellowship cohort in the fall. So we'll start recruitment efforts beginning in June after we graduate our fellows. And we would love for you to participate if you've never been a part of our fellowship, or share that information out to others. And then everyone's invited to the Groundswell Summit on June 9th and 10th in Paducah this year. So we're excited to be with our Western Kentucky folks. I am dropping that chat or that link in the chat. That is attended by family, schools, and communities. It's a really unique opportunity to see everybody in the same space. And as I mentioned, we have a great school showcase where we hear from all of the innovative ideas out in Kentucky. And then we partnered with local tour groups. We're going to visit some innovation happening at Paducah Head Start. We're going to take a tour to the high school, the Paducah Innovation Hub, and there's some other things planned where we're going to get to see what's happening in the education space in Paducah. So would love for you guys to attend, and there's information there about how to get registered. Thank you.
Laura, thank you. They can also go to PritchardCommittee.org, correct, to get that additional information? Yes. Mm-hmm. So it's a great opportunity. And Laura, I thank you so much for sharing. I know she does so much more than just this, but that great school showcase, that has become extremely popular, and just learning from other districts about what they're doing has just been phenomenal to hear those stories and that success, which leads me right on to what we're going to talk about next. Here is Laura's contact information. If you want to reach out to her directly, she's laura.beard@pritchardcommittee.org. And she's very responsive on her email. Thanks, Laura. We do have an agenda change. I just wanted to share on your agenda. We did have Mark Malviano from McCracken County. He was going to talk to us about some of the successes and challenges with the with family engagement as part of that community school initiative that Laura spoke to. That is the capacity that she and I get to work together on the Kentucky Community School Initiative, which I've spoken about before. But Mark has so much to share, and he had a wonderful reason for not being with us today, and it was a great thing with Ford and GL and Pritchard Committee, a huge event today. And so he will be with us in May, and he will share his wonderful story that he has and show you a lot of the really cool things that are going on in McCracken. So we're going to move on to my update today on the Family Partnership Council's recommendations. I'm not going to review all 4. I know we go over them each meeting. They are posted on the Family Partnership Council webpage if you want to see all of that. I'm going to talk about recommendation 1, and it really does piggyback off of what Laura was talking about. Encourage districts and schools to develop local web pages that include more robust building and communication metrics regarding meaningful family and community engagement. So KDE, we are trying to help districts with that part. And so I'm just going to give you some update on this particular recommendation. So our success stories are now highlighted on the Family Partnership Council page. And they're right under the recommendations on the far right-hand side when you go there. So I'm going to show some examples. So when we talk about family engagement, and we do know it looks very, very different, and that each community is very different. We talked about that with the AI policy, and I loved your question, Leah, that you presented to David about is there policy or guidance. And so each district and each school is so different. And so I'm going to give you 3 examples today. But the goal and the hope is that all of Kentucky's districts and schools can be inspired and learn from their peers, just like Laura was sharing with the Great School Showcase, but also from just reading the stories about what they're doing, the work to engage the families. So when you click on the Success Stories link, you will actually see a scroll. You can scroll through. There are several examples. We have asked our school districts across the state to submit. We do have a link to submit a story, and then we get them in a production form so that we can post them and you can read about them. Some of our submissions have come from schools. The majority at this point have come from our community schools, but we all are that are involved in the community school initiative. Excuse me, let me make sure I explain properly. But we also have a lot of submissions that have come from outside of that initiative, which is wonderful. So when you think about really starting to increase family engagement opportunities and learning from what others are doing, this has been a great resource for us to start sharing about what is working in that area of family engagement. So I'm going to start out with Floyd County. Floyd Head Start and Preschool, they're promising or innovative practice. They actually had a preschool classroom on wheels. They submitted some photos to us, and I think, Laura, they submitted them over on the Pritchard side, if I'm right. And so with students, we didn't have permission, we couldn't share them here. But they actually had a classroom on wheels, and you can read this card. It went out into those communities and those neighborhoods and actually took that preschool classroom out in a setting in that mobile bus so that they could see what it looked like. So it was equipped with the various learning centers. There was some dramatic play, blocks, library, math, art. The teaching staff went along, and it really helped them focus on literacy, math, and social skills. But it was really to help children transition ready to come to school and beyond. And so what was really nice and what we heard from those students experienced a classroom environment just like they were going to find when they came to school. And so they had that familiarity. They weren't as anxious. There were less tears of when they started school, and they were excited to come in. And so the family impact, and you can see this is broken down by not only the practice, but the impact to the student, the impact to the family, and then the impact to the community. So for the family, they also learned about resources and strategies to help support their child's learning at home. And there was a lot of community resource that connected with this classroom on wheels. And then the community really became involved by not only connecting with it, but allowing space in the local businesses where parents may be to help provide safe, accessible locations, just ensuring the program reached more families and made that early learning education convenient. So that's just one example of what is going on to help families become more involved, engaged, and connected to the school. I'll also share Bracken County. This is Taylor Elementary and Bracken County Middle School. Their promising or innovative practice was around the dinner table project. And so they had a collaborative effort where they brought the families together to sit down and share a meal. And so we all know, and we've talked about this for years, not everybody sits down at a table anymore and has dinner together as a family. It seems to be one of those things that, you know, with our fast-paced society, we are losing. So they worked together, they received an already prepared meal, and then the family and ate together, and then the family worked together to recreate that same meal to take home and freeze for a future date. And as part of being there, they each received a free crock pot, the utensils, and a recipe book from Frisk. So the student impact, you can see here, there was just great quality time. Created a space where they could sit together for a family meal, and the students then were able to see themselves as part of a larger caring community. And I love this statement when they sent it in, because so often we don't see ourselves connected to that bigger community and that other folks care, especially at that young age. And then the family impact, it encouraged quality family time, allowed them to sit together. They were able to cook together. It was modeled for them. How do you cook together? How can you do this and freeze meals? And so they learned a lot about nutrition, a lot about cooking, and just boosted everyone's skill by promoting healthy habits. And again, the free crock pot. And so that community impact was it just strengthened the partnerships between those local organizations, between providing the food, the crock pots, all of the things that made this a successful event. And that could easily be recreated anywhere. And my last example is from Rowan County, and it is from all the Rowan County schools. And this was really neat. You know, we've talked before about chronic absenteeism. And so this group was called the Viking Ambassadors. They participated in a discussion requesting their help around attendance data. So what was really neat, and you can read this, what was really nice is instead of that almost punitive effort, they actually brought these students in and set them down at the table and said, we want to hear from you, and presented the data to them and gave them an opportunity to learn the difference between truancy and then absent and chronic absent. And then they just asked her, why are you missing school? Such a simple question. And so the student impact, they gained a new appreciation of the importance of attendance, and how to interact with local businesses to complete a project from innovation to fruition. So let me just jump back up. Not only were they brought to the table and their voice was important, but they actually took over and designed an attendance campaign for the high attendance week. And then they went out in the community and sought donations. And then the students did all of this. They organized the donations. They created a list of the entire student body. And then they just randomly selected 10 to 12 names each day during that high attendance week. And then they gave away prizes. And so think about all the skills that was encompassed in just that simple activity. And so they actually, the next thing they did in projects that they planned for the second semester, they were going to focus on school culture and attendance and lunch buddies. And so they were looking for students who would benefit from having a lunch buddy. Those were identified and making sure that they had someone to eat lunch with. And so there was a lot there for the student impact. And then the family impact, the families reported an increase in school attendance, which helped their student become more successful and engage with that school community. And the community impact, the businesses donated to this cause. And so that just really did forge some new partnerships with the school. These are all very easily recreated. And I just think the power of the student voice contributing to how to solve chronic absenteeism and just becoming educated around that. This had a lot of really great opportunities for kids. So, you can read more. There are lots more success stories on the Family Partnership page, and I've tried to cover pre-K all the way to 12th grade in the examples I shared today, but you certainly can dig around. We have examples for all levels that have been submitted to KDE. So I'm going to open this up. Do you have any questions or comments for me today, or for many of our presenters that might still be with us? don't feel I've done that great of a job, but here we go. Thank you all though for, if you have anything or you think about it or you want to go look at that, those stories, please do. And we'll continue to work on that. And we're excited to have Mark come and actually hear from a district director in our May meeting. The next question I have, we would love to know what you would like to learn or hear about in future meetings. And we are so appreciative of the topics that you send to us, but we want to make this relevant to what you need to hear in your role. And so, Leah, that was a great connection today. I'm going back to you to make with Futurity, I think I said it right this time, and the work that you're doing in your capacity. And so just making sure that we, I love it when we can connect the dots. And so if any of you can think of other topics, please let Leslie know. You're certainly welcome to email myself as well. But if you can email Leslie, she does a lot of the behind the scenes work and getting our speakers and everything coordinated to make it really super easy for me. And thank you, Leslie, for all the work that you do behind the scenes. And so if you just let us know what you'd like to hear more about. And last, I will round us out. This is my contact information if you want to reach out to me. And I want to thank you again for your time and attending today's meeting. I want to thank all of the presenters that were here today. I personally learned so much today from all of our presenters. And just a reminder that our next meeting is May 21st. So that will be coming up. And with that, I think we are ready to adjourn. So may I have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion.
Thank you, Leah. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. And with that, let's see, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you all so much. And I will see some of you very, very soon. And some I will see in May. So everyone be safe and thank you for coming.